from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, farmers feeling less certain about the future, plus protests are mounting over those monuments while many ranchers are breathing relief out west, and agribusiness following the funds.
It could have a short-term impact because there's just not a lot of fresh news for the markets to digest.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. Florida citrus growers are taking a hit due to citrus greening. We talk with California producers about what they're doing to prevent it.
In California, we're just trying to survive long enough until a cure or a treatment is found.
And after decking the halls, this big tree is helping build walls for a good cause.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. While Wall Street regales in the strength of the economy and the surge of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, producers on the front line of American agriculture are less than overjoyed. The Dow hit a new high 1 week ago, surpassing 24,000, but in rural America, farmers are less excited about the economy in the future. The Purdue Ag Barometer dropping 7 points in November to a level of 128. Barometer analysts say that decline signals a slump in U.S. agricultural producers' confidence. Purdue says that's the second weakest confidence level in all of 2017. The November slide was driven by producers taking a less optimistic view of the future.
Ask producers to rate the next 12 months in agriculture as either a good time or a bad time in agriculture. In our latest survey, 62% of respondents said that the next 12 months they expected to be more bad times financially.
Whitmar says the Barometer survey routinely asks about farmland values. The November results show producer expectations appear to have strengthened somewhat as more producers expect farmland values to increase rather than decline in the next 12 months. Whitmar says this is first time that it's happened since data collection began. President Donald Trump on Monday took the rare step of scaling back to sprawling national monuments in Utah, declaring that, quote, public lands will once again be for public use, end quote. Cattlemen and public land advocates cheering the decision, while tribal and environmental groups say they'll see the administration in court. Now, at the center of the disagreement, the Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante national monuments, both encompassing millions of acres of land. Some 3,000 demonstrators lining up near the Utah State Capitol in protest of President Trump's monument announcement.
But for some reason, they want to fight. And I'm here to tell you, if it's a fight they want, it's a fight they're going to get.
It provides us with wood for warmth and medicine, and overall it's a sacred site.
A coalition of 5 tribes spent years pushing for the creation of Bears Ears National Monument. President Barack Obama made that designation last December.
These large-scale designations sound good to people in the cities and back east that don't really understand how these resources are cared for. This is a great headline for some administrations.
My husband Sandy, he's on the bulldozer there and he's cleaning a pond.
For others who live here and do the work of managing the land every day, they feel a monument designation does more harm than good.
They wouldn't have nothing to save if we didn't already save it. That's why I look at it,
The Johnsons and others say more red tape and government involvement only complicates their ability to make a living.
They say, that you can still do everything that you could before, but that's not necessarily true. You have to get permission. You have to Mother May I everybody to go out and clean a reservoir, to put in a new cross fence.
Depending on how they decide to manage this and how they decide to manage grazing and range improvements, there's the possibility that they could restrict you being able to maintain existing improvements, which would include our water. And if you're out your water, then you can't run your cattle here.
But the tribes and many environmental groups say that monument designation is for that reason, to protect these lands and their resources.
They are treasures, national treasures, in terms of the antiquities, in terms of the open space, the multiple uses that can be applied to the area. I hate to see it exploited.
We know that there's a lot of outrage from the environmental community about these reductions. They've really been protective of the Antiquities Act. It's a real shortcut for them to achieve some of their goals as associations and score points with their members. what we would ask of them at this point is, this feeling they have right now of being upset by this process, this is the feeling that ranchers and landowners around the West have felt, this desperation for decades now and generations.
Feelings about a fight with a long history, and one that's sure not to end here.
We're a resilient people, we're strong, we're overcomers, and we'll see President Trump in court.
It's important to note the president did not get rid of these monuments, only reduced them in size. The National Park Service says no president has ever tried to eliminate a monument, although some have been reduced or the boundaries redrawn on 18 separate occasions. A dozen states want the U.S. Supreme Court to block a California law that mandates how egg producers outside of California must run their operations. The California law says eggs sold within the state must come from hens that are raised in enhanced cages. Those cages give more room to chickens. The lawsuit claims California's requirements violate the Interstate Commerce Clause in the Constitution and preempt federal law. According to 2012 stats, California produces 5 billion eggs annually, but they import another 4 billion from other states to satisfy demand. 30% of those extra eggs come from Iowa. California voters approved this egg initiative back in 2008. A couple of weather challenges for farmers in California. Mike Hoffman has those details in this morning's Crop Comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Once again, wildfires are threatening California residents. Driven by the Santa Ana winds, these have consumed more than 70 square miles in Ventura County alone. Firefighters say the winds are high and fuel is abundant. California Citrus Mutual says the fires have impacted the large citrus industry in that county, but the extent is unknown at this time. Meanwhile, a couple of hours north in California's Central Valley, farmers are worried about cold temperatures taking a bite out of their citrus crops. California Citrus Mutual says sub-freezing temperatures failed to materialize on Monday night. About 85% of the navel orange and lemon crops are still on the tree in the Central Valley. Growers would like a gradual decrease in temperatures instead of a sudden drop. Now, taking a look at the root zone moisture, you can see the dry areas getting more extensive in Arkansas, parts of Missouri. We'll talk more about that coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
When we come back, we'll look at managed money and what it can mean for major commodity markets. And later, Florida's citrus industry has been hit hard by citrus greening. Growers in California say it's just a matter of time before the disease takes hold in their state. And new use for this tree after the holidays.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313.
If you're looking for market direction, analysts recommend watching Managed Money or Fund Movements. Tyne Morgan has more from the road in today's analysis.
Here now with Julianne Johnston of Pro Farmer. Julianne, when we look at the funds or outside money and the positions currently that they have on corn, on soybeans, on wheat, where do they set today and what impact could that have on prices kind of short term?
Yeah, absolutely. It could have a short-term impact because there's just not a lot of fresh news for the markets to digest, and funds are going to be evening positions as they close their books out for the end of the year. Funds are near record net short the corn market, hold a very large net short position in the winter wheat markets, and slightly net long the soybean market. So we could see some funds cover their short positions and give us a little bit of a bounce. Whether or not it's an aggressive enough bounce to be attractive price for producers to make any sales before the end of the year is yet to be seen, because there's so much supply on the market for corn and wheat. But for soybeans, if they continue to defend that net long position, as we have seen the last couple weeks, even with rains in Brazil and some somewhat negative news in the soybean market, if they defend that long position, it will keep the soybean market supported.
The funds really seem to like cattle for some reason, and we look at where cattle prices have been, and sometimes that's helped cattle prices. Do you think we could see a similar action on any of our other commodities like corn, soybeans, or wheat? I mean, could it take a large fund action to move our prices a considerable amount?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we see the potential for some short covering that could spur something in this market, and it could come at a time of some unexpected demand too. So the combination of those two factors could provide a nice little bounce in the corn market. But it's just, at this point, a hope that two things will happen at the same time.
Fingers crossed.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Julianne. We appreciate it. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be back with more Ag Day.
Ag Day, brought to you by Liberty Herbicide, the simply better solution for superior weed control and a stronger yield.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at the root zone moisture map, and I think this is probably going to echo the drought monitor that we'll see later this week, especially through the middle of the country, the East Coast, and out in Arizona.
I agree. A lot of the country is starting to dry out now as very cold, dry air starts to invade most of the lower 48. Now out west, it won't be quite as cold, but because of a big ridge, you're not going to see any big storms coming into the west coast either. So I don't see a lot of moisture across most of the country. Maybe some through the Southland, as we'll get to right now, because the weather map's showing some rain developing across much of central Texas. This Arctic front has stalled out in that area along the Gulf Coast, and that's where you're going to see a lot of moisture. Most of this snow, I mean, you might get a couple, 3 inches in places in the northern Great Lakes, but it's fluffy snow, it's very cold air, and it's not really a lot of moisture with it. So putting the maps into motion, we have weak systems kind of rotating around the main storm over eastern Canada, and those will bring a few flurries, a few sprinkles here and there. But the bulk of the moisture over the next couple of days is going to be down along the Gulf Coast, where that that front kind of stalls out and stays where it is, and that puts down some rain. It's also going to be some snow, parts of New Mexico, West Texas. That's pretty far south for this time of the year to see some snow flying, but that's the way it's looking. Lake effect will pick up in places as well as we head through overnight hours tonight and into the day tomorrow. By afternoon, though, that kind of moves on over into the eastern Great Lakes. Weak system causing a little bit of light snow, parts of the northwestern plains, parts of Colorado by later in the day. Precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. We've seen some decent amounts with the cold front through the southeast up the eastern seaboard. Adding in the next 36, you can see we don't add too much at all farther north, but we definitely add some down along the Gulf Coast. Some areas, south central Texas, coastal Louisiana may get 1 to 2 inches of rainfall over the next 36 hours or so. Snowfall mainly confined to the north, but like I said, we're going to add some over the next 36 hours. Southern Colorado into West Texas, even northern Mexico, getting some accumulating snow. This area is so cold for this time of the year. Lake effect areas, you'll have to watch your local forecast, see how much you're going to get there. High temperatures this afternoon, very cold in the northern plains and very chilly for this time of the year, even into the southern plains. You can see lows tonight going to drop into the low teens in the far northern plains, 40s down to the Gulf Coast. That'll be the highs tomorrow. That is really cold for this time of the year, and it's even colder farther north, all because of the jet stream. You can see how this Polar Express basically just coming southward. It lets up for a day here and there, but then another plunge next Monday and Tuesday right into the center of the country. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We'll head to Medford, Oregon, morning fog, then mostly cloudy skies, high temperature of 47 degrees. Topeka, Kansas, partly sunny and rather chilly, high also 47. And finally, Trenton, New Jersey, I didn't do this on purpose, but chillier, clouds and then sunshine, high of 47 degrees.
When we come back, we'll talk hurricane funding and challenges facing citrus growers on our Packer TV report. And this famous Christmas tree will have a new purpose in life after the lights come down. And that purpose may put a smile on your face.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
On the Packer TV, some congressional delegates are threatening a government shutdown over hurricane relief funding. Lawmakers from Florida and Texas say the disaster funding plan, which could be attached to the continuous resolution, isn't enough for their states. The two delegations writing a letter to the House expressing their disappointment. Congressional leaders must pass a bill that funds the government by December 8th in order to keep it running and avoid a shutdown. Some of those looking for disaster assistance are citrus growers in Florida. Betsy Gibbon reports on an industry facing major production losses before that hurricane ever hit.
When Hurricane Irma stormed through Florida, it did not discriminate. Crop production losses for the state's citrus growers continue to rise.
We've been cut in half on a production level because of disease. This cuts that half in half.
Florida's citrus crop has been plagued with a disease called citrus greening, spread by an insect called the Asian citrus psyllid, and there's no known cure. USDA is forecasting Florida's orange production at 50 million boxes, which would be 27% less than last year and the lowest since the 1945 through 1946 season.
So we got to do some pruning here.
Growers like Al Stelly in Escondido, California hope they're not next.
We've taken the attitude of it's not if it comes, it's when.
For the first time in decades, California produced 4 million more tons of citrus than Florida during the 2016 through 2017 season.
We're producing more oranges in California now than Florida, and that's criminal. Well, it's not criminal. I mean, it's sad for Florida, that they've lost that much production to the greening disease.
Stelly says California growers are just hoping to survive long enough until a cure or treatment is found. Psyllids with the disease have been found in various areas of California, but so far only residential areas.
If the disease is here, and it can be in this tree for 5 years before we know it.
He sprays multiple times a year to try to lower the pest population and coordinates with the neighboring groves to spray within a 2-week period. That way the psyllid cannot fly from grove to grove.
The psyllid is in the new flesh, so it would be in this here. No, that's not a psyllid. Oh, there's one. It's right there. Now that is nothing to go through this many leaves and only find one. That's just been hatched.
Although not all psyllids carry the disease.
It's not unlike the relationship between the mosquito and malaria. So if there's no malaria, the mosquito bites you, you don't get malaria. But if the mosquito previously bit somebody with malaria, you're going to get malaria. So if there's no greening here and that insect is on my trees, it's not going to bring me the disease.
Stelly is transitioning these trees into organic production. However, he believes a GMO technology may be the only way to combat the disease around the world. Currently, GM citrus is not sold commercially.
I think the GMO may be the answer eventually, or some kind of lucky breeding. And then you won't have organic citrus.
As California growers aim to produce a big crop,
Not bad.
they are leery and on alert, watching growers on the opposite side of the country for clues to a solution.
They thought we did have a better crop, that we would maybe start plateauing and maybe increasing. So very optimistic in the industry, but after this, it's really been tough.
Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Florida Ag Commissioner Adam Putnam sent an urgent letter to the state's congressional delegation asking for relief for the state after the $120 billion ag industry underwent more than $2.5 billion in damage at the hands of Hurricane Irma. The Rockefeller Christmas tree in New York was just lit up last week, but we'll show you what will happen after the lights go down on another holiday season.
AgDay, brought to you by Credenz soybean seed from Bayer, designed using smart genetics with tailored varieties to fit any field condition. In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M5 series, bringing new levels of comfort to hard work. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Once the lights go out on the massive Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center in New York City, the tree will find a new home, so to speak, and that home is with Habitat for Humanity. After the holidays, the iconic tree is milled into planks and 2x4s. Lumber is then used in new or renovated homes as part of the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. The 2016 tree is going inside a house in Newburgh, New York, about 50 miles from where it stood in Rockefeller Center. The wood receives a special stamp to mark its unique journey.
So it wasn't just thrown away, it was used in my house.
I love seeing it arrive. I love seeing the stamp. I love knowing that it was part of this tree that brings such joy.
The wood is too knotty to support a lot of weight, so it's used mostly on interior walls. Of course, most of that wood is hidden in walls and ceilings, so it's a bit of a built-in cheer that can be felt but not seen. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.